Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a very well-documented and horrifying experience. So well-documented that there are 3 police affidavits from the witnesses who experienced it. Also, tonight is the Saturday Night Mayor's live stream. 12 a.m. I hope to see you all there. But let's get into some encounters. Before we do that, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. The merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go, and they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? All right, so what we will do is I will share this very well-detailed and horrifying encounter, and then I will share the 3 police affidavits from the witnesses who experienced this event with this very strange creature. Let's get into it. One dark night near Bishopville, South Carolina, June of 1988, 17-year-old Christopher Davis stopped to change a flat tire along Skateboard Swamp. Just as he had finished the task and was putting the flat tire in his trunk, he heard a noise coming from a nearby field. As he peered off into the darkness, he saw a 7-foot-tall creature with red glowing eyes running towards him on its hind legs, grunting as it closed the distance. Christopher immediately jumped into his car and sped off down the road. Just as he thought this nightmare was over, Christopher heard a crashing thud above him and saw a large 3-fingered hand with scales and long claws reach over his windshield. Another hand was trying to pry open his driver's side door. Christopher, now petrified and scared for his life, swerved the vehicle on the road, and the creature suddenly fell off. He didn't know what kind of animal could run on 2 legs and could catch up to his car, which was traveling at a relatively high speed. He had managed to get away, and that's all that mattered to Christopher. When Christopher arrived at home, shaking and crying, his dad settled him down, and Chris began to tell his parents about what had happened. His dad knew that his son was not usually an imaginative storyteller, and Christopher's highly emotional state compelled him to believe that Christopher did in fact see something highly unusual. When Lee County Sheriff Lisden Truesdale heard about what occurred to Christopher Davis, he interviewed him and asked Chris if he'd be willing to take a lie detector test. Lisden figured that if he was really making the story up for attention, the idea of taking a lie detector test would make him retract his story. But to Lisden's surprise, Christopher happily agreed to be tested, adding that he was sure of what happened and what he had encountered. Christopher Davis drew an image of the being that attacked his car and was wired up for the test. A series of questions about the event were put to him, and Christopher answered them without hesitation, although believing that they were a victim of an imagination gone wrong. The officers administrating the lie detector test and Lisden soon realized otherwise. Christopher had passed that lie detector test with flying colors. While Christopher Davis' adventure into the unknown had ended, Sheriff Lisden Truesdale had just begun. In the months that followed, the sheriff began to receive more and more reports from individuals claiming to have seen this wild beast near Skateboard Swamp. It's not unusual to hear such stories, seeing that the swamp had a long history of mysteries involving reports of hauntings, sightings of strange lights, and the occasional bear or two. But the new reports were different. Multiple eyewitnesses began to surface, many of whom Sheriff Truesdale interviewed were upstanding members of the community. They were people who risked losing credibility and possibly businesses. Most of all, Lisden noticed the highly charged emotional state of some of the eyewitnesses. His investigation training at the FBI Academy taught him to look for signs of emotional distress to help determine when someone was recovering from a truly traumatic event. And many who reported seeing this lizard man were showing all the signs. It wasn't long before word spread throughout Bishopville and beyond. The press, curiosity seekers, avid out-of-towner hunters, and television crews around the world began to show up. Gradually, businesses began to profit from the invasion. Lizard Man mania engulfed the small community and the nation when Bishopville Lizard Man story was reported on CBS News. Stories were also printed in Los Angeles Times, the Charlotte Observer, the Herald Examiner, and Time Life magazine. Serious investigators and international press and the societal fringe arrived on the scene. Sheriff's Department spokesperson Billy Moore told reporters that although hundreds of the 3,500 plus residents of Bishopville ventured into Skateboard Swamp in search of this lizard man armed with shotguns, most of the citizens believed that the sightings were a hoax. After looking into it himself, however, Moore said that he had no doubt that there was something very real on that road with young Christopher Davis that night. He thought, though, that there had to be more of a conventional explanation. Meanwhile, George Holloman, Jr., 32, of Bishopville, reported seeing this creature while collecting water from an artesian well near the Skateboard Swamp Bridge. Holloman and an unnamed friend were both frightened away by this creature, fitting Christopher Davis's description. Holloman's brother told reporters that George was visibly shaken by the event and that despite his pleas for George to stop telling the story, because he didn't want to hear it anymore, he continued to talk about it and said it took time for George to settle down. Also, a young couple by the name of Brian Edward, 23, and Michelle Nunnery, 20, of Elmore, informed the sheriff's office that they had almost hit a huge bipedal creature while driving on Cedar Creek Gum Springs Road at 12:30 in the morning. They provided statements and were interviewed by the officers. Lizard Man mania soon began to bring out the worst in people, and Sheriff Truesdale knew that it was only a matter of time before some gun-toting lizard man hunter was going to accidentally shoot someone in the swamp. It was then that the inevitable happened. An Air Force sergeant was discovered trying to dress up as in a lizard costume. When the press heard the story, a shadow of a doubt was cast over the lizard man encounters. When the press left Bishopville, Lisden was happy to see his hometown return to normal. But normal never returned, really. During the early 90s, the sheriff's office continued to receive reports of this lizard man sighting. One eyewitness, a colonel in the Army Corps of Engineers, reported seeing a half-dinosaur, half-man thing running across the road in front of his car late one night. He informed Sheriff Truesdale of the event and, after seeking counsel from his attorney, decided not to place a formal report on file regarding his sighting. The stated reason for his refusal was that his attorney told him he would lose his privacy. As an officer who had spent years at the Pentagon and who was about to be promoted to general, Robert Cooper may have thought that filing the report would be a death sentence to his military career. Another truly interesting eyewitness lizard man encounter was that of the Blithers family. While driving home after getting dinner at a fast food restaurant, a woman and her children were laughing about the lizard man sightings when their lives took a sudden and frightening turn. They almost hit the huge, hairy beast in the road. The encounter shook them so much that they immediately drove to the sheriff's office and told Sheriff Truesdale and his officers about what had happened. The family was split up into different rooms, and their reports were taken separately. All information provided matched. Now, in another strange incident, damage to a Ford LTD belonging to Tom and Mary Way was attributed to the lizard man because of the anomalous strength that would be needed to cause such destruction. In the middle of the night, when Tom and Mary were asleep upstairs in their house, parts of their car had been ripped apart, wires were pulled away from under the hood. Remarkably, neither Tom nor Mary heard a single sound all night. To this day, Sheriff Lisden Truesdale continues his search for whatever it was that turned his sleepy, small community upside down. The lizard man of Bishopville occasionally resurfaces and continues to provide a sense of mystery and wonder. All right, something that I'd like to touch on before we jump into the affidavits. There's a lot of conflicting experiences. Now, Christopher Davis's, the young man who took the lie detector test and had seen, this creature first, his was bipedal. He didn't really give a good description, just that it was reptilian and had scales. Then as time went on, a Air Force sergeant was discovered dressing up in a strange, lizard-like costume. So that really puts kind of casts a shadow of a doubt. But then you have a colonel in the Army Corps of Engineers who believes what he saw would be half dinosaur, half man. Tail-like and kind of like a head of a velociraptor, right? And then the young couple, 23 and 20 years old, had seen a large, hairy, bipedal creature. So, red eyes. Now, with all the accounts, obviously, there's something there. To me, I believe it more because even though that idiot was caught in a costume, and shame on him for doing it, with all of the experiences and sightings, it's either kind of like a mass hysteria or there is definitely a creature there. I myself believe that there is, especially with Christopher Davis's lie detector test, and then the Blithers affidavits. So could it be a Dogman? Could it be a lizard man? Could it be some sort of half dinosaur, half man? Who knows? But you can't deny that it's strange, and that many sightings, something's out there. And even the sheriff says it as well. So let's get into these affidavits. All right, first statement, August 2nd, 1990, statement of Bertha May Blithers. This statement relates to an unusual sighting that took place July 30th, 1990, on the Browntown Hickory Hill Road of Lee County. This past Monday evening, I went to my mother's house in Browntown to pick up my son. We went to McDonald's on Highway 15 near Bishopsville to get something to eat. We left there maybe 20 minutes after 10. I was heading home and came through Browntown and Skateboard Swamp. We were laughing, singing, and eating French fries and listening to the radio, and started to talk about this lizard man creature right before we got to the bridge. After we got through talking about him, we were laughing and singing again, just one big happy family. The people in the car were my son Johnny, age 18, my daughters Tamika, age 11, Christina, 5, and my 2-year-old twin boys at 4. We passed the bridge and was down the road near the site. I was looking straight ahead, going maybe 25 miles an hour, and saw this huge brown thing. It jumped up at the window. I quickly sped up and went on to the other side of the road to keep it from dragging my 11-year-old girl out of the window. I didn't see it with my lights directly. It nearly scared me to death. After I turned to the other side of the road, I mashed my brakes, and my son saw something walking across the road behind us. My son wanted to turn around and go back, but I wouldn't. I was too scared. There was no way I would have turned that car around and went back. I came on home and called my sister, Virginia, and told her about it. She told me to report to the sheriff's office. I didn't want to report it because they would think it was a joke or something, but I told them whether they believed me or not. My son wanted me to turn around right then and report it, but I came home. I was scared to get out of the car, and when I did, I like to never got the right key to get in the door. Description: it was tall, had a chest like a human, 2 arms like a human. I saw from the waist up, but I didn't see its face. The chest was large. Note, she measured a yard wide. It almost filled the window on the passenger side. Note, she was driving a 1980 Buick Regal. What I saw of it looked like it had hair. Note, it was about the color brown as my car. Note, which is between a gold and brown. I'm not wanting to get on TV. It was not my imagination. I know. I've seen it, and it was not a deer. I never saw anything like that before. It was not a deer, nor a bear. My 11-year-old daughter was screaming, so I had to reach over and straighten her up. It definitely was not a person. This ends the statement of Bertha May Blithers. All right, the next statement was on July 31st, 1990. Statement of Johnny Blithers, just graduated from Bishopville High School, employed by the city of Bishopville, South Carolina. The statement relates to an unusual sighting that happened July 30th, 1990, on Browntown Hickory Hill Road in Lee County. Last night at about 10:30, we were coming home from Browntown section of Lee County. It was me, my mom, Bertha May Blither, 2 sisters, age 5 and 10, 2 brothers, age 4, twins. I started talking about the time we passed the following flowing well in Scape or Swamp. I said, there ain't so much thing as a lizard man. If there was, somebody would be seeing it or caught it by now. We got up a mile or a mile and a half past the butter bean shed, about 50 feet from the dirt road by those two signs. My mother was driving the car. It was on the right side. It came out of the bushes. It jumped out in the road. My mom swerved to miss it and mashed the brakes and sped up. It jumped out of the bushes like it was going to jump on the car. When my mother mashed the brakes, it looked like it wanted to get into the car. Size, it was taller than me. I'm 5'10". I'd say it was 6 feet tall or more. Color, I would say brown. All of us said it was brown. Description, had hair on it. Tall, big eyes, and it was brown. Told my mom to turn around. I wanted to see what it was, but she would not. We weren't going fast, maybe 30 miles an hour. This was not my imagination. I know what I saw, and I am not trying to get on TV. I know I saw it last night, and I ain't crazy. It stood up like a human, not straight up, but humped over, kind of like in a crouched position. Never seen anything that looked like that before. Had arms and legs, large eyes, glowing. I'm not going to lie. I know what I saw. I'm not like Chris Davis. I don't know what he saw, but I know what I saw, and I'm not trying to get attention. My mother said, "Y'all see that? Y'all see that?" My sister started screaming. We came home pretty fast. My sister thought it was going to get her. We came home, reported it to the sheriff's office. No, it looked to be what he measured to be a yard wide. Says it was a lot bigger than himself. The people I spoke to, they worked with me. Some of them that I talked to today were laughing at me. They said it was my imagination. I told my mother to turn around. I wanted to see it, but she would not. We weren't going fast, maybe 30. Here, I saw it before my mom smashed the brakes. I certainly don't think it was human dressed in something, because no human ain't going to jump in front of a car. It was definitely not a bear. This ends the statement of Johnny Blithers. And this is the final statement, August 2nd, 1990, statement from Tamika Blithers, age 11. This is the daughter that the mom refers to in her statement. She believed that it was trying to grab her out of her window. We were riding along. I was the first to see it. I was on the side door of the passenger side. I had the window down. I had my arm out the door where the window was at. When I saw it, I hollered and put the window up and got closer to my mom. Description: tall, taller than the car, brown looking, big chest, big red eyes, 2 arms. Don't know how his face looked. First seen his eyes, never saw nothing like it before. I didn't see a tail. Mother says if she hadn't whipped over, it would have hit her car or jumped on it. Would like to see it and get a picture. Mom said she was so scared that her body light, and she held her heart all the way home. First time any of them has ever seen anything at night. Careful about dogs, not to run them over. This is the end of statement from Tamika Blithers, August 2nd, 1990. Now, those are old police affidavits. I tried to enlarge them as best as I could. Actually, I had to take my glasses off to read them to be able to see the letters because it was so small. And with age, the typewriter, I imagine it was done in typewriter. The ink kind of had faded, but think about this, we're talking about a completely different creature than any of the other folks had seen. And these people actually went on record. Mom, single mom, kids. I don't feel like she would lie about something like that. And then the young man just graduated and is working for the county. Now, he describes it the same way, large, bipedal. Just absolutely insane. And then to have the military corps or colonel of the Army Corps engineer or whatever, Army and Corps of Engineers, to retract his statement so he didn't look crazy and ruin his military career. I myself, with the last statement with the Blithers, believe that at least one of these encounters was Dogman. And I feel that the Blithers had experienced a Dogman encounter rather than a lizard. But I wouldn't doubt there being, a lizard creature in Scape or Swamp. Anyway. All right, folks, let's end this upload with a subscriber Dogman encounter. Hey, Jeff, call me Teddy. I live close to a place in Old Fort, North Carolina. The road that's in Old Fort is called Curtis Creek Road. It leads all the way up to the Blue Ridge Parkway, a nice curvy road all the way up to the Blue Ridge. It's all dirt roads. The nightmare in real life, my Dogman encounter. My wife and I had just gotten married back July of 2017 and had been staying there for about 2 months in an apartment, so she and I decided to go out somewhere. I had taken her up Curtis Creek. Sure, I've been up there before, but I didn't go all the way up to the Blue Ridge Parkway. I was planning to scare my wife half to death. Well, I guess I bit off more than I could chew. I got halfway past the campground that's up there, about a mile up on, and I stopped to relieve myself. When I did, I turned off the car and turned the lights off, thinking I was going to be safe. Oh boy, was I wrong, because while I went out to relieve myself, I was standing right beside a tree. Then I smelled this god-awful, wet dog, iron-like smell, and thought it was a pack of coyote close by, so I didn't pay much attention. Just to let you know, I was basically in the middle of the woods, and it was dark, 2 a.m. I finished my business, and I was 7 feet away from the car. I went back to the car, and I went to open the door of my 92 Toyota Corolla, and that's when I heard it. This blood-chilling growl. I quickly hopped my ass into the car and turned on the high beams, and I saw it right in front of us, where I just had been. Where the tree was, and where I was just standing. It must have been standing right behind me, while I was relieving myself. I then started to freak out. What I was looking at, it had pointed ears, it was darkish brown fur with hints of white, and the thing that I will never forget was its blood-stained teeth and bright yellow eyes glaring at me. At first, to me, it looked like a giant wolf because it was 5 feet tall on all fours. It growled some more and then stood on its hind legs to where it looked to be now 8 feet tall. I could see its legs. My wife said, "What the hell is that?" I said the same thing at the same time and put the car in gear and floored it backward until I could find a place to completely turn around, pull forward, and I ran us off the side of the road trying to get the hell out of there. Then we got about halfway down where the campground was when we heard the howling. Once I hit paved road, I floored it because we couldn't go that fast on the dirt roads, on the curves. I have not been back up there after dark since. And if you do go up there to explore, do not go after dark or close to nightfall, because you will regret it. Now, that Curtis Creek Road, I have actually looked into that area, not because of this guy, but because of another subscriber that lives out that way, and had looked into that location. And there is quite a lot of land and a lot of just strange happenings in that area. So I wouldn't doubt this guy's experience at all, to be honest with you. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Your support is what helps this channel continue to grow and go, and what makes it special, because it really is a special channel. You guys are what makes it that way. I mean, your caring and compassion for other subscribers and folks who share, no judgment, which is truly an amazing thing to have in this field. So thank you. Guys, with that being said, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on your children, your pets, your family, and friends. We know these creatures are real, and we know they're out there. Just share a little bit of the information that we share on a daily basis here. That info may save their life someday. God bless you all.